Welcome to Upstate Impact, the podcast that explores the stories of business owners, leaders, and influential figures shaping upstate New York. Each episode uncovers their path, the challenges they've faced, and the impact they're making in their industries and communities. And now, your host, Luke Cometti.
John Mossotti, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Listening to our intro, I'm not going to lie, it's the first time I felt like it was a little soft. You know, we're sitting here in this gym with all these racks and everything, and I used to run a lacrosse recruiting podcast, and it was very much a pump-up intro.
Yeah.
So that would have fit
like
a little better. Exactly.
It's funny, even when people come in and say it's their first time ever coming into a gym, there's no way to make strength training look not scary. You know, so it's like
it is
they have
intimidating.
all this stuff, and someone's like, you know, say they're 55-year-old, never done anything in their life. They're like, dude, I don't know if I'm ready for this. I'm like, there's a million things we can do. Like, it's not as scary. You might not even touch a bar. You know, like it's not as scary as it looks, but there's no way I can make this look less intimidating than what it really is.
They walk in, barbell crashes on the ground. They're like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah. Luckily, we don't have too much of that. So we don't have only like one or two people that do Olympic lifts.
Okay.
So there's not a lot of like dropping, banging. So it's just more traditional strength conditioning.
I feel like for most people, that's probably what they need.
They
just need to
moving.
be banging weights on the ground.
No. You know, there's maybe our college kids, you know, when they're come home or something like that, they're deadlifting heavy or something like that. But other than that, they're just moving, you know.
Give us a little background. Elite, you know, personal fitness. I see your shirt established in 2015.
Yep.
But before you dive into the gym itself, talk about your just background. Where are you from? How'd you get into the fitness industry?
Grew up right down the road. I went to Solvay. Graduated 2007. I was a skinny kid that just wanted to get bigger. I was always into athletics, training, like exercise. I did karate for a million years when I was a little kid and loved it. And I really feel like most of my confidence from being a kid came from doing stuff really well physically.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like if I was faster than somebody or, you know, because we did 1 million push-ups in karate. So we would have like the presidential test at gym class. And I'm like, you guys can't do like 50 push-ups in a row. Yeah. And I'm like, but I thought it was like normal because I was doing it and I knew other kids played sports. I didn't really get into more sports till later on, to like maybe, you know, middle school, high school. So I was always active. I was playing with my buddies, but, you know, I really liked pushing physically and stuff. And then, you know, I was always tall and lean, always wanted to get bigger. You always want what you don't have.
Of course.
You know, so it's like everybody who's like heavier wants to have a six-pack, you know, all this stuff. And it's always flipped, and just started getting, my sister had gotten into doing like bikini shows and stuff. So she just started bringing me to the gym, and I just like fell in love with it. And then from there, that was all this, like if I want to learn something, I go like deep in it. So I was just doing everything I could to learn. There wasn't much on the internet then. You know, YouTube wasn't around, so it's not like you could go watch YouTube videos. So I was all over these blogs, like learning like from these guys that are, you know, crazy strong or big or whatever I could soak up, you know, and just learning more about it.
So you got super into it.
Yeah.
What was the point that you're like, I'm going to start a gym?
It's funny. I think anybody that like works out, especially in high school, you're like, oh, this would be so cool if I had my own gym. But I never imagined like, I would always want my own gym to train at, but I never knew what you always kind of go back and forth. And I think everybody, like when I went to school, I was like, hey, I want to go to school and learn more about exercise. Like I feel like I need a formal education that's not just like my meathead research, you know, online. So went to college essentially for exercise science. Human performance and health promotion is what my degree is in, but essentially it's a human or exercise science degree. And while doing that, there's all these paths like, hey, I could go physical therapy, or hey, you know, I could go with my program, you could have gone cardiac rehab. Like you could go, or it's like, do you want to do personal training? Do you want to go to a college and do strength conditioning there? You know, do you want to go private sector or public, or what do you want, you know, what do you want to do? So I think you always tend to go to like, well, what's more secure? Like I thought about going to cardiac rehab, seemed interesting. And then I did 1 million internships, which is what I really push on my college kids when I have them here. I did like 2,000 plus hours internships because that's where I was really learning. I was like, oh, they don't really teach you in exercise science, like, here's how to coach somebody with a hip injury through a squat pattern. Like,
true.
Like, I asked my teacher, how do I do that? They're like,
Yeah.
like, we can tell you what happens in the body during exercise, but they're not really teaching you the other aspect of like how to actually coach people. So your internships is where you're going to learn most of that. So I started learning like crazy, and I did probably 1,000 hours at the Human Performance Building at Upstate, and learned a ton there. And they also had a cardiac rehab portion in there, and it was like during a break I was like, hey, I think I want to go try that. And I was there for 4 seconds, and I was like, this is not what I want to do. And I just think through those internships I learned like, no, this is kind of too slow for me, or I don't want to work with this one particular group of people forever. Like the strength conditioning plan or program through like a college is cool, but I don't want to only train soccer players.
Yeah.
Like I would like to train all the sports. It'd be fun, but also too, in that I really learned how much, because also too, people that get into this, they all want to do athletes. And it's like, have you talked to a group of 15-year-olds for years on end? Like, it's not as fun. Like, and I love our kids, and I hate, I'm not trashing on them, but I like the different groups where it's like, hey, I can go talk to a 55-year-old going to be retiring soon. Okay, now I can go talk to, 14-year-old kid trying to make a team on a hockey team. Then it's like you can bounce around. Somebody's just out of college going to this. It's like, it's really how we have it set up is like you can talk to everybody. And the older population there, it was a lot of really like 70 years old and plus at Upstate. And they have, you would think that they would be a boring group to train. Like as a young kid coming out of college, you're like, want to train all these people that want to get jacked and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, you've been through life. So there's people that did amazing things in their life, and they would just tell you about it while you're working with them. And you're like, this is awesome. These people are great. I couldn't wait to go talk to them, every day. It was fun.
Yeah. Well, coming from coaching high school lacrosse for many years, it can be tough to, sometimes you get the motivated young individual who's willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's kind of like pulling teeth to try to, especially in the gym. We would do 2 days a week at the gym, and I would help coach that. And it was like, they're playing lacrosse, but I'm like, guys, this is just as important as anything else we're doing. Yeah. But they didn't necessarily view it that way. Whereas when you get adults in here, they're here for a reason, right? I mean, you're there to motivate them, but usually they're pretty motivated if they're signing up to be a part of this gym, and they have a reason for being here.
And you can see it too, the levels of the kids. There's some 12-year-olds that are locked in, and they're a blast. So like they're ready to go. They're working as hard as they can all the time. There's some kids that they don't really hit it until, usually it's the boys. We don't figure it out till later. It's like they're going into senior year and they're like, oh man, it's getting serious now. And I'm like, dude, it should have been serious a while ago. If you're like trying to get stronger, so, but they're the ones that you really got to be like, they come back and you're like, oh, you're a whole different person.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, you've really grown up too. And they also like, they start getting bigger and it starts to become more important to them. Yeah. But even, in college, there's kids that are like, I'm a gamer. I go and play my sport, and that's what I'm into. And I don't really want to do anything outside of that. I'll go do wall balls forever, but I don't want to go do the other stuff, and it's just like, comes with it, man.
Yeah.
You gotta do it.
Eventually you get to a point where that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right. Someone's going to have your talent.
Oh, yeah.
Plus they're going to be at the gym.
Especially when you get to college.
Yeah.
And that's with the kids that are, a lot of kids want to go D1. And they always talk about it. And I'm like, you got to be somewhere close to the discipline for D1 level, because you're going to go to that program and the discipline level is going to be like times 100 of what you need.
Yeah.
And there's kids that are from Texas that are savages that are going to be freshmen, and they're already back squatting 450, and you're going to like barely be doing 180, and they're going to be like, they're just going to eat your lunch, and we're always like, it's funny when you get people that are like a month away from going to school, and I'm like, I can just make you really sore, man. Yeah. Like there's not much we can do. But you will get stronger at school. They'll get you eating and lifting.
Absolutely. Today's episode of Upstate Impact is brought to you by Renewal by Andersen of Central New York, the window and door replacement company setting the standard for quality and craftsmanship. If you're looking for durability, energy efficiency, and expert installation, Renewal by Andersen delivers. Their exclusive Fibrex material combines the strength of wood with the low maintenance benefits of vinyl, providing a stronger, more beautiful, and longer-lasting solution for your home. With their signature service, every step, from design consultation to professional installation, is built around convenience, expertise, and long-term value. Their industry-leading process ensures a smart investment that enhances both comfort and style. Click the link in our show notes to set up a free quote today and take the first step towards transforming your home. Renewal by Andersen. Superior products, exceptional service. Interesting you bring up that you did a lot of internship hours.
Yeah.
And you almost kind of learned, a big part of that is not learning what you want to do, but learning what you don't want to do.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's just valuable advice for anyone, going through life, trying different jobs. Like you said, that's what you tell young, people training here. Hey, you're in college, try as many things out as you can, because then you start to figure out, all right, I don't want to do that, but I want to do something in fitness. You decided to open up your own gym, and it's interesting. Opening up your own gym or having your own gym is different than even just running a gym as far as having clients and training them is different than just running a business. So talk about, okay, I'm going to start this gym.
Yeah.
Clearly I think you already, knew how to train people. You had a lot of great experience, but now you're like, I got to run this business as well. How was that hurdle to overcome?
Where I was working before, me and one of my employees now, we took over kind of like a failing sports performance franchise. And in like 10 months, we made it most improved franchise, won this award. It was cool. We were there for about 2 years. And before that, it's like, hey, I know how to train people. I got a lot of experience from that place. I trained 1 million kids, learned a lot about speed training there. And we ran the business. So I was like, okay, so I feel comfortable. I was like the program director or whatever it is. So I was running the facility. So the only thing that I really didn't know, which I ended up having, you end up paying somebody to know, is marketing. So it's like, I know how to run it. I know how the training I want it to be done. Like, I know like the day in, day out stuff, but it's like, how do you get people in the door? Huge problem.
Yeah.
But
big part of the business.
But that's something that can be figured out, where I think the expertise, if you're like, hey, I'm going to go open up a gym because I like exercise, and you don't know really the training, you're going to have a lot of trouble. Where like the marketing, it's like, hey, you can pay somebody to do that if you're able to.
I think what's important too to mention there is that you're kind of right. You have to have the training down, right? You have to give your clients a great experience, because then marketing's like throwing gas on the fire, right? You have a great system here, boom, now you start marketing it, you get people in the door, they're having a great experience. If you don't know what you're doing from a training standpoint, you may get some more people in the door, but they're never coming back, so it's kind of
and especially with the gyms, it's like, well, what makes you different? And a lot of people like to think, well, because I'm the best. I joke, because people in my industry, we're really like the land of misfit toys. We all think we're better than each other, like we get along with very few of us. But like that's kind of what people in my industry do. They're like, well, I'm the best, and they'll just come to me because I give the best experience or whatever it may be. And it's like, but nobody knows that. And a lot of people in this industry will come to you because they like you, or they know that you care about them. Is like a big part of people staying long term is like, are you really invested in helping them achieve their goals? You can have whatever, name the program, however, maybe you do some version of squats differently than how I do it, but as long as you're focused on trying to help them and they enjoy being with you, it's a stress-free zone for them. They can come in this is their third home. Yeah. Then you'll probably end up being successful.
I got to imagine you have to wear different hats, because best is very subjective. Right? The best for a 15-year-old is not a best for a 30-year-old, is not a best for a 60-year-old. Yeah. So, trying to encompass all that, which is, I think, what you do here, maybe talk about that. How do you appeal to the 15-year-old who wants to go play D1, to the 30-year-old who wants to stay in, shape to be able to still play in their pickup basketball league, and the 6-year-old who wants to be able to pick up their grandkids? Yeah,
it's hard. If you're training athletes and the general public, you're essentially running two businesses. Yeah. Because you have to completely market different to each person. So I think there's more of a marketing challenge there than anything. We just do our best to kind of explain our expertise in both ways, and then try to help them as much as we can. So a big thing that we have, or that we do, is like speed training for the kids, where nobody does speed training. No one teaches you how to run. You know,
Yeah.
you just run. Maybe as a kid, like your coach is like, "Why are you running like that?" And you're like, "I don't even know what I'm running like."
Oh, I've been running since I was 2.
What does that mean? Yeah, it's like, and we're just told, "Hey, just run as fast as you can." And maybe you do track, and maybe your coach sits you down and goes, "Hey, you got to really work on this." But you know, that's a huge help to kids. So that's a big appeal to people. Is, hey, I want to get faster because speed kills.
Yeah.
If you're fast in your sport, you can get away with a lot. You know, you can be not as skilled, and especially in like JV varsity level, like if you're just like one step faster than somebody, you just like know a little bit more how to lean forward and, you know, run better. You're going to beat people.
I mean, that's the difference between the guy getting recruited to go play D1 and the guy who's not.
Yeah, it's a cheat code. Like
Yeah.
if you're training and you're doing speed training as an athlete in high school, it's a cheat code because most kids aren't training.
Yeah.
You got a huge advantage on them. In college, everyone's training, and there's freaks. So you got to deal with both of them. The adults, it's, you know, the big thing that we do, it's all personalization. So we meet people where they're at. So where are you at, and how can I get you to where you want to go? And that could be, everyone's journey is different. So a lot of people, and kind of how I made this was, where I was working before was primarily athletes. We had a small group of adults that we were working with, and you know, they all wanted to work out together. They loved talking. We had a blast. But like, okay, well, 55-year-old woman, bad knees, 25-year-old guy wants to lift the house. You know, 55-year-old guy wants to lift the house, but he's kind of banged up.
More like the shed.
Yeah, exactly. More, then I got, you know, a woman who didn't have an ACL, who was a runner. Imagine that. But it's like they all wanted to work out together, and it's like, all right, well, you guys can all do very similar things as each other, but like this needs to be modified a little bit there. This needs to be a little bit modified there. And then you're kind of doing similar things, but just different based off of what you can do, what your pain level, you know, allows you to do, what injuries you have. Because after 18 years old, you got something going on. Somebody's banged up in some way. If you're not, I'm like, you haven't lived life fast enough, you know. But so with the adults, it's like, hey, we'll just meet you where you're at, and then we'll get you to where you need to go. So if somebody walks in, it's a big gray area. It depends. It's kind of the answer.
Yeah,
for like if somebody comes in, you go, well, can you get up and off the ground? That's an issue for some people because you're really not on the ground unless you got little kids, you know, of your own, or you're a kid. You know, other than that, you sit down on a bench or chair, you stand up. That's it. You never really get on the ground, which really, you don't realize how bad your mobility is till you have little kids and you get on the ground like up and down a million times. You're like, man.
Or try a Turkish
My knees
get up.
hurt, yeah. So pretty much, like, if somebody comes in, no matter where they're at, it's like, hey, where do you want to go? We do a small little assessment with them just to get an idea of, like, what's your strength level like? So we know, like, I'm not going to be, and I'm usually very conservative. Like, if we get you hurt here, it's the opposite of why you came.
Yeah.
You know, so we're only trying to get you better. Usually I say if you can, or just because you can doesn't mean you should. You know, especially, like, the people that can lift real heavy. I'm like, hey, we shouldn't do a 1 rep max when you're 50. It's probably not a good idea.
Yep.
It's really not a good idea for young kids. You know, they can get away with it, you know, but you don't need to, you know. So I'm like, just because we can doesn't mean we should today, you know. So, but also there's times where, you know, you're not going to really feel 100%. So if strike when the iron's hot, if you're feeling good, hey, let's press it heavier today. So a lot of the people coming in, it's like, well, what can we do? What can we get you to the next level? Where's the starting point for us? And then just go from there. So,
yeah,
especially based off their injuries. So we don't want to make it worse. We want to help them.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach. And I think, too, I used to go to a gym down in Austin, Texas. Shout out to Ford Motion, Brad. And he was great. He had a very similar approach to you. It's like, hey, we're going to do this exercise. Start with, you know, these kettlebells. And if you feel good, go up from there.
Yeah.
Because he knew I could do those.
Yeah.
And if I was having a tough day, then that's probably where I'd stay or I'd go up.
Yeah.
Where there was another trainer who was there for a little bit who would say, hey, start here. And it'd be, you know, it'd be like 8 reps. And by the 6th rep, I was like, I don't even know if I can do 8 on my first one.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah, I'm getting
and like
smoked.
you're telling me to do this? Like, come on. Like, it was just so deflating.
Yeah.
That it's like, you don't need to, like, I don't know, like, you know, I can motivate myself, you know, give me a baseline and I'll go up from there, depending on how I'm feeling. But I feel like I'm a 30-year-old. That's a little different than a 15-year-old, like, hey, buddy, you can maybe go up a little bit. You know, you got to try a little harder here.
Yeah, the kids, you have to kind of teach how to work hard.
Yeah.
To an extent, you're like, hey, this is now what pushing hard is in the gym. but they need a strength base level. Like they need to have the base level of strength, and then we can go from there. So it's like, you don't really get that. It's like, all right, now you're to the next level. It's like karate, you have the belts.
Yeah.
Like, all right, here's the next level, and this is what you got to go to. So adults, I'm like, really consistency is the science. It's like, hey, if you just come and say you had to leave early, say, you can only sneak in 30 minutes in an hour-long workout, come.
Yeah.
Like your brain is going to feel so much better just getting the action done. You don't have to set a PR every time you come to the gym. It's really, coming in and being consistent is like how you win. And confidence, we're trying to protect everyone's confidence here as much as we can. So I have to set you up to win. So if I do things where I'm like, we'll see, it's like, like I got to be pretty confident in what you're going to do and especially as people and go further down the line, we're like, oh no, you could do more, but if there's kind of like and I've been proven wrong, and I'm like, hey, I'm happy you proved me wrong. But like, I'm always going to err on the side of caution where I'm like, hey, one, I want to protect your confidence so like you don't feel like you're coming here because everyone's getting beat up in their life. Everything's not going right.
Yeah.
So, and nothing's ever perfect. So if they come in here, I want to try to make it as perfect as I can for them to like, hey, you got to win. You came in, maybe everything felt heavy, but like you got it done. And that's a win just in itself.
Yeah. If you get someone walking in the door who doesn't have much experience in a gym or working out at all.
Yeah.
What are some things you focus on? Like, what are some kind of basic, whether it's a routine exercise or some like, muscles to focus on that you think, hey, push-ups, bodyweight squats, whatever it is, like these, start doing these and then we'll kind of build up from there. What are some things you guys focus on?
Yeah. I mean, if the hardest part with somebody new is they don't really know their body yet. So like the coordination of like, all right, well, drive your elbows back. And they're like, what does that mean? It's like, so you got to kind of like walk them through the movements a little bit more than if somebody comes in, like, say you're like, hey, I trained in college, we're like, oh, dude, you're going to get it. We're like, no problem. Like,
yeah.
And maybe you do it a certain way. And I'm like, actually, we're going to do this. And you're like, oh, okay. And then you can pick it up. Sometimes the athletes do it better than I do. They're just more coordinated in a lot of ways, but if somebody's just new, it's like, and probably half our people that come in, they're like, I've never done this before. I don't know what to do. I want somebody to tell me what to do. I don't want to think about this. I should be doing it, but I'm not, and it's like, all right, cool. Let's just walk you through. And it's really just a basic movement. It's push, pull, squat, pick stuff up, your core in every direction.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of, exercise works is the easiest way to put it. It's like, hey, we just got to get you moving. So sometimes people, they get weird about like, well, I want to do a bicep curl with my palms up. And then it's like, well, I like to do them like a hammer. Can I do it like that? And I go, yeah, sure.
Who cares?
You're curling, man. I don't care. Like, unless like we've been doing hammer curls for months. I'm like, maybe we should change it up, but
True.
If you like it, let's go. Like you're in here working out. I'm happy.
What's going to keep you here?
As long as you're moving, I'm happy.
Yeah.
So, and people in my field get real like into certain camps. I'm like, whatever works. Like whatever's going to get you moving, whatever gets you to come here. So I tell people, even like motivation wise, hey, if those new shoes are going to get you more motivated to come to the gym, because you always feel like you need to get something to like I think I need new shorts, Yeah. And if it's going to pump you up, sure, buy them. Like it'll help you can build momentum, whatever you need to do to get you going.
Yeah.
Do it, because like I said, that's the hardest part, especially getting back on the wagon. It's like everyone's hardest part. It's like, you go to a wedding on a weekend, and that leads to another week of like, wow, well, in 2 weeks we're going to go do this. So I'm not really going to get on my stuff. I'm not really going to train. I'm going to miss a couple sessions, or I didn't have time to prep food for one day. So the whole week kind of goes away. And the faster you can get back on track, say if you fall off, and you usually fall off, it takes you like a month to get back on. If you start falling off, because it's going to keep happening for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Life's going to happen. And, you're going to get a call that your kid's sick at school. You weren't ready for that. It's like, all right, that changes everything. If you can fall off and get back on in 3 weeks, that's a win. And then if you can keep narrowing that down to like, if you fall off, like at least a couple days, I'm back on. Or if not, the next day. Then you get to the next meal. You're like, all right, I ate like crap when we went out to breakfast at this bagel shop. Like I had 2. I probably should have only had 1. It's like, all right, well, next meal I'm back on. Instead of like blowing the whole day, because that will lead to blowing more off.
Yeah.
Falling off.
I think you see that with people too who have like a a goal in mind. Like, I'm going to run this marathon, or I'm going to do the Murph, like coming up Memorial Day. And it's they train, they do it. And then it's like, all right, I did it. And they didn't really make the jump to a lifestyle change. Yeah. They just, put a goal out there, probably did it. We're able to do it.
Yeah.
And then they slow down. And it's like, once you get over that hump of just that lifestyle change, and that doesn't mean, you never eat a cheat meal. It means you never miss a day workout. No, it's just, to your point, you don't fall off the wagon for, all right, I just ran a marathon and then I didn't do anything for 6 months. It's like, it's like, what's the point? Why don't you just spread those miles out throughout those 6 months? You miss a day here, miss a couple of days there. All right, you get hurt, take a few days off. But, if you can limit that time that you're not doing anything, it's just so much easier to get back into it.
Well, and even like our challenges that we do, a lot of the reason why we do them is for our own people. Because when you're an athlete, you have your next season. It's really easy to train as an athlete. Because you got your next season coming. There's pressure. You don't want to get juked out in the field in front of everybody. It makes you nervous. So you're going to go out and train, and there's also direct competition. You can see the person that you're going to compete with, and you know who's good and who's not good and all that. When you're, we call them the NARPs, which you've probably heard of. If you haven't heard of a NARP,
random person, right?
Not athletic, regular person.
Regular,
and that's when you're done playing sports and you're just a regular person now.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a hard thing for people to transfer over. So the challenges give people like, hey, here's a 4-week challenge. All right, let's lock it in. We do those throughout the year so people can go, all right, cool. I can push for 6 weeks. Kind of have a little downtime for about a month, and you're like, all right, cool. I'm busy that time anyways. Like, then the next one, like, I got to get back on track. And the goal is to get better each challenge, and you're gonna, get better, and then you come down a little bit and you kind of flatline. Maybe you get a little bit better, maybe you get a little bit worse, but then the next challenge you kind of bump it up again, and you get a little bit. But you're always hopefully getting a little bit better each time, or learning better habits. Because even just habits of, say for example, say you have ice cream, 5 days a week. It's like, you don't have to get rid of it. Like, you could do it 3 days a week. Now, in 2 years, you might be ready to get rid of it completely. But right now, it's like, all right, well, I think it's a James Clear, Atomic Habits book. There's 3 ways to do it. It's like, hey, you can completely eliminate the habit. Like, say you're smoking, you're like, I got to go cold turkey. I just got to stop. Or you can limit it. Or you can change what say you have ice cream, maybe you go to a lower fat version or a lower calorie version to like help you out. You're like, hey, I'm still getting my fix, but it's not as bad.
Yeah.
And depending on where you're at, you might be like, I'm done. Like alcohol, like I probably had like 5 drinks last year. I always feel like crap.
Yeah.
And
that's a big one.
I always had hangovers.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that fun.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
So it's like, if that's an easy for me to go, nah, I'll just stop. Unless it's somewhere like a cool, like one of my staff's getting married at the end of the month. Yeah, I'll have some drinks. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
But like, it's not a big deal for me. It's not a big deal for me to get rid of it. And I kind of treat it as like a special event. Like, hey, if there's something where like I'm not really going to get this opportunity again, like say me and my dad go somewhere, yeah, let's get a drink together. But like, I'm not thinking about it. But some people are like, I can't give that up.
Oh, it's Tuesday night. I got to have my IPA.
And it's like, hey, that's okay. But like, we got to at least maybe try to limit it. If you're trying to improve and get better and feel better and all that stuff, it's like, hey, alcohol and sugar are probably the first things to go that are going to make you feel better. Like if you just limit what you're taking in, you're just going to feel better. And especially alcohol. Sugar's sneaky. People don't realize how much sugar affects you until you get rid of it, or like most of it. I mean, obviously, people take this the wrong way too. Like you should have fruit and all that stuff too. Like those are sugars we want you to have. Carbs are good. Like there's sugar in your body. That's okay. But like you're eating chocolate, stuff like that. And, like I was just recently, I used to make my own granola, and then you put chocolate chips in it. Have some chocolate granola. And I did it for like 4 years. But then the bowl always ends up getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You end up like, dude, I'm eating like a 700 calorie granola. Bowl of granola and yogurt. Yeah, it's like, what am I doing? And then you get rid of it and you're like, oh, my skin's cleared up. That's crazy. Like, you're not having like a pound of sugar like a week, eating granola, which you think is healthy, but it's just how you always end up putting more chocolate in. Let's be real.
Yeah, of course.
So the food thing too, it's like a lot of people, like I kind of break it up into archetypes of like, and you don't have to change them. People try to fit diets into their lifestyle, and it really should be you fitting your life around the diet. So say a diet's like, breakfast, lunch, dinner, but you don't like breakfast, but you're going to force yourself to do it for like 4 or 6 weeks, whatever the say you're doing keto, to pick on keto.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you're going to do keto for 4 or 6 weeks, and the meal plan that you're following is breakfast, lunch, dinner. You're going to be like, I'm full all day. Like, I don't feel good. From the beginning of the day, I eat this meal, and I'm not feeling good. It's like, you don't have to eat breakfast. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Some people base off their work, like we call them late nighters. My dad was a cop. It was the same thing. Like, he'd kind of have breakfast. Maybe he'd have lunch in the middle of the day, but sometimes you're caught up. You can't eat. You're doing stuff. And then he gets home, and he's like, dude, I haven't eaten all day. And they just crush food.
Yeah.
So, like, they're not technically most of the day eating a lot of calories, but they do in their last meal. There's people that are grazers, like they never really have a meal. They just kind of graze through the whole day. Yeah. Usually say those are moms, with young kids, because you're like making meals for everybody else, and then you're kind of like picking. Spoon. Yeah, you're like picking as you go. And, so there's like a perfect day, or somebody does like breakfast, lunch, dinner. And there's kind of strategies that we do with each person. But it's like, hey, we just got to kind of, how do you eat? All right, let's try to maximize that as best we can. And it's the same thing with training. I can give you a meal plan, but if you eat McDonald's 3 meals a day, like, that's such a change from going one end to the other. Like, wait, I got to make all my food. You don't make any of your food. Like, it's too much of a discipline jump where it's like, all right, let's do McDonald's twice a day, and let's get like a lunch every day that you make yourself, and maybe we can get the calories consistent, get your protein up. Then we'll go from there. Do that for a couple weeks. All right, we're feeling good. Let's change another meal. Let's only do it once a week or once a day, and then you just start spreading it out, and you got to have these little wins stacked up on top of each other, or you're just going to be, in which we all get too excited. You're like, I'm motivated now. I'm going hard in the gym. I'm going to start completely change my diet, and we all want it. I mean, I think Amazon broke our brains too, where it's like, you could get this tomorrow. Yeah. And we always want something. I mean, I do too. It's like with everything, you always want it immediately. Yeah. But if you make it manageable, you can easily do it. It just takes time. Yeah. And that's the hard part. Yeah. It's hard to see past the 6 months or 6 weeks, 6 months. But
nothing kickstarts, I think, good diet like getting in some sort of fitness routine.
Oh yeah.
It's like you don't want to waste that workout by going to, McDonald's after.
Especially if you're suffering during the workout. You're like, I just screwed myself. Yeah. That was so hard. Yeah. But yeah, so with that, I usually tell people the first 2 weeks, don't even change your food. Just start working out. Get this habit going. Don't worry about starting this and something else. Yeah. You're going to naturally be more.
They're probably going to do it anyway.
You're going to end up eating better. Yeah. Just making a little bit better choices every time anyways, just because you're putting in the work, like you said.
Exactly. I want to know your thoughts on supplements. I know you have a vitamin shop right here. I'm sure they have a bunch of supplements there, and you walk in there. I mean, just like walking into a gym for your first time, it's pretty intimidating. Yeah. And there's a million things you could take, and of course they say you should take all of them, but let's be realistic. What do you recommend to, I guess maybe it's different for people in different stages of their fitness journey, different ages, but like what are some things, supplements that you recommend that would probably be good for anyone or for certain people at certain stages?
It's all the very simple stuff. All your like multivitamins, fish oils, vitamin D, especially because we're in the Northeast, you need vitamin D. That's another one that's like huge. Metamucil, just getting fiber in, helps people. You're going to feel better, especially if you're eating a lot of protein. You're going to need Metamucil or some fiber. Those are like just some quick, easy, like, here are some vitamins. Even if you have a full balanced diet, you're really still not getting everything that you need. It's just going to make you feel better. So those are kind of like easy wins.
What about athletic greens? You ever?
Yeah, I mean, they go back and forth on it. Yeah, I mean, you hear, that's the thing too, is you go and you're like, hear 5 studies say this, 5 studies say the other thing. And you're
4 out of 5 dentists recommend.
Yeah, like what do I do? Yeah, so exactly. I would say if you are not getting in enough vegetables, and that's an easy way to do it, why not? I also think the placebo effect is real. So sometimes and there's really nothing you can get at these stores now that's dangerous. When me and you were in high school, you could get some sketchy stuff at these places. And
they're all heart rate would
they're all
be,
banned
you can
now.
hear your heart
it's like
from,
EPO. There's all these things.
Away.
I mean, there's essentially you can get steroids at a version of them. in 2004. It's like, what? So now there's nothing really out there that you could go to like a GNC or any supplement store that could be kind of sketchy. Creatine pretty much across the board is good for everybody.
Heard it's awesome. As of late, you hear that all the time. People talk about creatine.
When we were in high school, it was like, hey, you want to get jacked? You got to take creatine. Yeah. Everyone's parents were like thinking you were taking steroids. And it's literally the safest stuff. Like that's the most researched supplement on earth. And they're really doubling down on it now. And they're finding a ton more stuff with just your brain. Even
fatigue.
if you have a bad night's sleep, if you take take some more of it. Sometimes if you take more, though, I've noticed it bothers people's stomach. Usually they say 5 grams a day, which I think everyone should do, whether you're 18 or you're 55. I think it's just good for your health. Just having it. It's the cheapest supplement you can get. It's by far the safest.
Yeah,
I've never really heard of any bad things happening to people besides maybe if you just have some gut stress from it.
Yeah, if you don't hydrate with it, I hear too a little.
Yeah, that's not as big of a deal as people think it is. Like if you're drinking, we say like 80 to 120 ounces a day, you'll have no problem.
Well, some people don't even drink
25
ounces a day.
No, that's a whole nother world.
Yeah.
But that's even, again, if somebody wants it, we're like, how much water are you drinking? And they're like, maybe like one of these Yetis.
Yeah. And
I'm like, so like 30 ounces maybe. I'm like, all right, let's get to like 50 ounces.
Yeah.
Because then if you try to bump somebody up to a gallon a day, it's going to be terrible. They're going to be going to the bathroom every 5 minutes. Like they're never going to, and then you end up dehydrating yourself because you're getting rid of it so much. But yeah, creatine's awesome. Any version of real protein, like whether it's a bar, a meat stick, protein shake, collagen, they're just easy ways to sneak in protein. And they're really just convenience.
Yeah.
So if you say you have your 3 meals and you're like, I'm still kind of down like 30 grams of protein. It's like, that's a protein shake. It'll taste awesome.
Yeah.
You'll really enjoy it, and they're not super high calorie. You can make them super high calorie. It's also the easiest way for, say, our kids that are looking to gain weight. Have your meals where like, hey, maybe eat a little bit more of what you're already eating, but you got to take that in stages too, because you can't go from like 2,000 calories to 4,000 calories.
That's a lot.
So the easiest way is to do it through liquid. All right, let's get a protein shake in you. Once you get used to that, let's change that to a meal.
Yeah. Then
we'll add the shake again, and you just kind of keep progressing them up. But I use them out of convenience just to get protein in, and it's not that hard.
Well, you see the recommendations, like Peter Attia's book, Outlive. He says, try to match your body weight in grams of protein.
It's hard.
It's very hard.
Very hard.
It's very hard with protein shakes. I can't imagine doing it without a protein shake.
Yeah.
But I imagine, and I've tried to get close. I don't even think I get there. It just depends on the day, obviously. Yeah. But, I mean, what does that do for an individual who focuses on that type of protein? I mean, how much does that impact what comes out of this gym, or what they do in the gym? Do you see that? Like, all right, do you see a shift in people when they really start to say, hey, I'm going to focus on my diet, my protein, and all of a sudden they're like, wow, your shoulders look a little bigger there, buddy, or whatever it is.
It's just recovery-wise.
Yeah.
You just feel so much better. I think people really feel the difference, and it'll change your body composition. If you have enough protein in, you don't eat the other stuff.
Yeah.
Because it makes you fuller, and it's hard to get. And so if you're eating enough protein, you're not overdoing it on carbs. You know what I mean? Fat's a whole different story because sometimes you can get protein with a lot of fat in it. And fat kind of sneaks its way into everything, and it's more calories per gram, all this stuff. So protein-wise, like people recovering-wise and then body composition-wise, like that's where we see the difference where people are dropping fat, building muscle just by increasing their protein. Even if you just have 20, 30 more grams than what you're used to.
Yeah.
We try to get people up to, we usually say like 0.7 grams per pound of body weight. And if you're really performance-wise and trying to have, performance, strength improvement, we're like, hey, try to get over 100 grams a day. Then we try to go to, how many grams per pound you are.
Yeah.
But like I'm 220 pounds. That's a lot of protein. Like that's a ton.
Exactly.
So you got to really try hard to get that in. So we always just say, start with that, focus on that number. You can count calories, you can do all this stuff, but protein, we're like, really focus on that number, track that, because if you're doing that, everything else kind of falls into place for the most part.
Yeah.
There's always ways to mess with it. But for the general public, it's like, hey, just eat more of it.
Yeah, and they say protein, you can, but like it's really hard to eat too much protein.
Yeah, it doesn't happen much.
Yeah, people don't really do that because it's so much.
No.
And as far as losing weight, not only does protein help, but I think a common misconception too is the protein obviously after a workout. And I think strength training, which I think that misconception is now starting to get realized by people that if you're losing weight, it's not just like going for a run or going for a walk. The best way to lose weight is to build muscle.
Yes.
Especially like a high intensity muscle building workout is probably the best way you can do it.
Yeah, muscle, look, it's expensive in the body. So it requires more fuel, requires more water, requires more of everything to keep it. So if you go and run, you're going to lose it because it's not efficient to have more muscle on your body. So, but your body will burn calories 24 hours a day, the more muscle you have. So we're like, and it's not like, hey, I'm going to go like that's where people go, well, I don't want to get like huge. Like I've been trying to get huge my whole life.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to happen. I joke. I'm like, you get huge by sitting on the couch and eating. That's how you get huge.
Yeah,
like,
good point.
Like if you're trying to, if you're strength training and you're eating enough protein, that's how you're going to get your body fat down. And yet I think you need everything. We got to get stronger. So we need some form of strength training. You got to get your heart rate up to a higher intensity, but most of your conditioning should probably be on the lower end. They say, what's it called? Like 140 beats, is like a good number if you just kind of sit at that.
Okay.
You can have awesome results from. It doesn't have to be as high intensity as people think it needs to be. People like the high intensity stuff because you're sweating, you're working hard, it feels good, you're getting a good workout in. And I'm not saying,
in 10 minutes you can do a lot, right?
Yeah, it's like, hey, if you incorporated like 3-4 walks a week for 30 minutes, that'd help out a lot.
Oh yeah.
You don't realize how much it actually can help you. And you're like, that's all I got to do. And I'm like, well, yeah, you got to, eat your protein and do the whole gamut, of stuff, which ends up over time, seems like a lot. But once you make it into your life of like, hey, I'm just trying to live a healthier life, feel better. Like, this is kind of what I got to do.
Yeah. Well, John, I appreciate your time, and I know you got some clients coming in here soon, but before we wrap up, just tell listeners the best way to get involved with Elite Personal Fitness.
Yeah, probably our website, joinelitenation.com. We do initial assessments with every person that comes in, so we'll sit down with you, go over everything, get an idea of where you're at, and we'll make a personalized program for you. You never have to think about anything. Come in, we'll walk you through the whole thing, and make it fun, as fun as we can.
That's it for this episode of Upstate Impact. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the conversation, make sure to subscribe and share. Stay tuned for more stories from the people shaping upstate New York. See you next time.